Since they've been making video games, Nintendo has always been one to experiment with differing ideas and playstyles, a philosophy shown many times throughout their consoles. You may not particularly remember a game with the objective of doing real-life activities such as cooking, or a game where you can plan your own workout routine in various categories, but it's that consistent kind of experimentation that has given Nintendo a reputation for itself, with their ability to house all kinds of games that anyone can enjoy. And in some cases, Nintendo doesn't even have to act as the developer to maintain this reputation, something best exemplified through the releases of their rhythm games. Of course, Nintendo has had their own hand at rhythm games with the Rhythm Heaven series, but more examples stand out, such as those made by Square Enix and a handful of DS games. But one that I always wondered about was the 3DS exclusive Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. The game first came out in 2012 and was a recognizable part of the 3DS's early lifespan, but nowadays it feels like it's in a weird position. At first glance, Rhythm Thief proposes a unique concept to tell an engaging story, yet there's little noteworthy coverage of the game in recent times, and although it's had its moments, such as a TikTok trend from 2020, there are many who say the game is underrated and deserves more attention. So given these circumstances, the game should be pretty enjoyable, right? Well, we have yet to see. Is Rhythm Thief one of the unspoken parts that form the backbone of the 3DS library, or is it a game that just doesn't get into the groove of things? I wrote that joke, you can laugh now. Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. My name is dehparticles, and in today's video, I'm gonna give my thoughts on Sega's unknown rhythm game, Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. So something I was surprised to see while playing Rhythm Thief is that the gameplay shares many similarities with the Professor Layton series. Throughout the story, players follow the main character Raphael and his dog Fondue as they investigate many of the streets and famous landmarks in the city of Paris. As you move around from place to place using the circle pad, you can use the touchscreen to perform most of the other functions presented to you. Like Professor Layton, Rhythm Thief gives you the ability to talk to NPCs you find in the surrounding area, and interact with the environment in search of medals for extra content at the shop. However, something unique to Rhythm Thief is how Sega combines these elements with the musical theme of the game. In addition to finding medals, you can also find music tracks that can be stored in the menu, or record musical sounds from objects that you see in front of you. These musical sounds are required in certain instances to progress the story, and there are at least 60 of them to find, so they serve an essential purpose. Aside from this, the main component of Rhythm Thief's gameplay is the collection of rhythm games you can play throughout the story. In any instance where you're faced with a rhythm game, you use the various control schemes of the 3DS, such as the buttons, touchscreen, and gyroscope, while trying not to deplete the bar on the top screen. Each game goes for at least 3 rounds, and based on how well you do, you get a rank from E to A at the end of each game, and you can earn additional medals as well. There are 50 mini-games in total. Most can be found by progressing through the story, but there are others you can find by completing side quests or interacting with characters on the map, and you can always replay minigames you encounter from the menu. Speaking of, the menu also contains directories of items you find, including sounds and rhythm games, but also ones for side quests such as Phantom Notes and the Master Instrument, and a gallery for re-experiencing content such as cutscenes. Based on these alone, the game offers some ounce of replayability amidst experiencing the story, so that there's more to do once the main game is finished. But other than that, the gameplay is easy to get the hang of. Now it's time to discuss the story of Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. I'm not going to go over the whole of it since it's a lot to take in, but regardless, there will still be minor spoilers for the game, so skip to this part of the video for the actual review. Otherwise, you have been warned. The game starts with a prologue sequence set 3 years before the events of the story, in which the casket of Napoleon Bonaparte is broken into from inside the Les Invalides. In the present day, a red-haired French citizen named Raphael searches for the whereabouts of his father, who abandoned him around the same time as the Napoleon incident. And to do so, he disguises himself as an art thief named Phantomar. Phantomar, while cunning and able to escape the force easily, has an unusual methodology as he tends to return the pieces he steals only a few days after a heist. Why this is the case, nobody knows, but it's during one of these heists where he discovers something peculiar. A coin left by his father bears a symbol exactly like the one on a bracelet that Phantom R steals from the Louvre Museum. But weirdly, a violin in possession of a girl named Marie bears the exact same symbol. I'm sure this isn't related at all though, like it couldn't be. It couldn't be. Well, in the haste of this discovery, Phantom R follows a journey of puzzle solving, rhythmic activities, and sightseeing around the landmarks of Paris in order to get closer to the truth and stop Napoleon Bonaparte in his plan of evil. Along the way, you meet several characters who accompany you on your journey and are recurring throughout the majority of the experience. Marie is your friendly, reliable companion for almost the entire game. An orphan since she was young and a violinist at heart, she meets Phantom R due to the earlier mentioned symbol relation between their objects, and she becomes essential for later plot progression. But of course we can't forget about Fondue, Raphael's dog and just a cool friend all around. He is the goodest boy. Inspector Vergier is the head of police at the Paris Constabulary. Someone who is hell-bent on catching Phantom R for his art crimes, he acts as the primary antagonist for parts of the game. Not only that, but he also shares kinship with a self-proclaimed detective named Charlie. Soccer obsessed as they are, they do their best to help the inspector despite his opposition, and they act as another minor antagonist for Raphael. And of course, we can't forget about Napoleon, the main antagonist of the game, as he takes command of a group of knights named the Chevalier Diabolique and seeks out an artifact known as the Dragon Crown. It's this skillful blend of characters that create an engaging storyline for the main game. No other game sees you fighting the actual Napoleon Bonaparte in a sword battle and then dancing outside on the streets of Paris, so similar to other rhythm games, Rhythm Thief will keep you entertained with its twists and turns. But how does the actual game fare? Now with all that's been covered about the game, I have my own individual thoughts to share on how I think it does on its own. For a game released early in the 3DS's lifespan, I actually really like the level of graphical detail present. The visual novel-esque portions of the game are complemented with really well done drawings of the backgrounds that even manage to mix in some slight animations. Most of what I remember from playing these sections of the game were trying to find medals in places where they seemed to be hidden, which really made me pay more attention to the surroundings. I especially like the blue skies in combination with the vibrant color schemes of the streets of Paris, which made me feel relaxed while playing the game and was a good move as to not make the setting look too bland. The user interface was also something I liked. It fits with the overall theme of the game and makes the menus more interesting to look at, so the quality is maintained even when you're not actually in game. And since this is a 3DS game, the added touch of 3D models during mini-games in the top screens map added some more refreshment to the overall presentation. They look really nice, and especially in rhythm games when you see them frequently during normal gameplay, they not only complement the effort of the 2D graphics, but they're really well animated in time with the music, and that's something that'll make playing the game more entertaining. The only real complaint I have with the graphics is the use of the 3D effect. However, it's ultimately unnecessary in the long run, so it doesn't really change anything. So although they aren't too much, the graphics suit the game well, and are generally pleasing to view. As this is a rhythm game, we of course have to talk about the game's soundtrack. Encompassing the game is an all-star OST that switches from style to style in the heat of the moment. You could be playing a minigame with up-tempo music as if you were on the dance floor, or one where you have to sneak past police guards in a stealthy execution, or one where you play a violin piece to save the world, or you could not be in a minigame at all and just want a calm stroll through the blue skies of Paris. But irrespective of its composure, the soundtrack is impressive and circumscribes some of the most memorable moments across the whole game. It's especially satisfying when you're playing the rhythm minigames and your actions sync well with the music, a great compliment to the game, especially considering the cel-shaded graphics. Another thing I want to touch base on is the voice acting, which although has its moments, can be a bit of a hit or miss. I generally have no complaints and a lot of the performances are well done, yet sometimes the lines feel out of place to the situation at hand and would have greatly benefited from a second take. But otherwise, the audio presentation of the game is unique in style and a great offering to those playing the game. The overall gameplay of Rhythm Thief is enjoyable, although it ultimately rests on how much musical skill you might have. Like with games such as Rhythm Heaven, the minigames task you with varying musical challenges as you use the buttons, touchscreen, and gyroscope in order to progress further with the story. Thankfully, I didn't have too many problems with the minigames that require the buttons or touchscreen. They're responsive and function pretty well, and they make up the majority of the minigames. but regrettably, the ones that use the gyroscope, despite me only using them twice the entire time, are just a mess to control. They are really awkward to use, and I consecutively failed those minigames so many times that I actually bothered to purchase extra items solely to move forward. Only 2 of 3 times I ever did so. It's a relief that this control scheme only appears for a few moments in the actual game, but I don't know why they bothered to include it without doing a bit more testing. And worse, it's complemented by another bad choice made with the minigames. While it isn't hard to complete each game with the lowest required E rank, the scoring of the minigames can be incredibly frustrating. Here's an outlook of what I mean. Let's say you're doing well in a particular game and have at least a B rank, but you get thrown off and make a few mistakes near the end. Shouldn't be too bad, right? Now of course, you can always replay the minigames prospectively if you wish for a higher rank, as it isn't a requirement expected of you. But if you aren't that skilled with a task, the rhythm games end up feeling more like a chore than a fun gameplay segment, especially near the end of the story when they decide to throw like 5 of them in your face. It's just annoying. Fortunately, while the rhythm games are still fun, if they aren't your cup of tea, you can still find enjoyment in the more wind-down exploration segments of the game, which as said earlier are reminiscent of the Professor Layton series and present a fair gameplay balance throughout the course of the story. Which leads me to my next point. After the story, Rhythm Thief presents a nice measure of replayability. Automatically the door is open to extra content as hard mode is unlocked upon completion of the main story, and from the shop you can revisit cutscenes and audio tracks from the mainline game. But in your own completed save file, you can access bonus chapters that offer more lore-based content through the completion of side quests, namely for the characters Fondue and Marie. A similar chapter in relation to Charlie and Inspector Vergier is offered if you manage to A rank all the minigames, a challenge on its own given the ranking system, so if you go for it you'll probably spend a lot of time playing. Finally, the game also includes multiplayer features so you can compare scores with other players through Street Pass or compete to get the highest score in local multiplayer battles. Taking into account this plethora of features in conjunction with the rest of the game, the replayability value is quite high, and with all the other features discussed is enough to prompt someone to buy the game, right? Well, unfortunately, due to the game's obscurity, Rhythm Thief is rather hard to find, with it only being more so as time goes on. Physical releases of the game are incredibly difficult to come by, with new copies out of print and used copies of the North American and PAL releases being sold for high prices across the internet. As an alternative, you could opt for a digital copy of the game to save on your SD card, but in spite of that, this method won't be available for long as the days of the 3DS eShop dwindled towards closure. There was a port of the game on mobile devices under the moniker Paris Caper, however the app shut down in mid-2015 with no offline support, meaning that as of today, the only version of the game that remains playable is the original 3DS release. And it sucks because the game definitely deserves to be preserved in some way before it's potentially gone forever. Hopefully Sega will produce a port of the game in the future for modern gen consoles or PC, but until then, Rhythm Thief stays trapped on the 3DS. In conclusion, even though word on Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure is only slight, it's by no means a bad game. The story is lighthearted and interesting to follow, being complemented by an easy to understand and relaxing gameplay save for a few inconveniences. And in company with many other characteristics such as soundtrack, graphics, etc., Rhythm Thief is a fun time, and the reputation surrounding it is well deserved. It's incredibly disappointing that the game has rarely received attention since the mid-2010s, and as of now, little chance exists of the game being brought to other platforms, much less a sequel to resolve its untouched ending. But not all hope is lost. At just $20, the game remains purchasable in a convenient and legal fashion, so there's still time to buy it before it's too late. I would give an earnest recommendation to everyone watching to try it before it's gone for good. It's truly one of the hidden gems of the 3DS library, and it's a fun experience regardless of your gameplay preferences. And hopefully, with its positive reception, Sega will revisit the game and give Phantomar another chance to put on a stellar performance. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm wondering if anyone else has played Rhythm Thief before watching this video, so if anyone has, consider leaving a comment down below. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the game. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps me and the channel out. If you want to get notified about new uploads, consider hitting the notification bell or checking out my Twitter. My previous video on the Zelda Game & Watch is also on screen and in the description, so please be sure to check that out as well. Otherwise, that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then.